The station called Relay 9 was small, old, and forgotten by almost everyone who mattered. It floated between two quiet trade lanes, far from the shining capitals of humanity. Most people assigned there treated it as a punishment or a place to disappear quietly. Elias Cade did not complain. He had learned long ago that complaining changed nothing. Elias worked as a systems analyst. His job was simple: watch numbers scroll across his screen, make sure signals stayed clean, and file reports no one read. He lived alone in a narrow cabin, ate the same packaged meals, and spent his free time repairing broken machines that the station crew had given up on. He was not famous. He was not important. And that was exactly how the universe had allowed him to survive so far. On the day the season began, Elias did not know it yet. The first sign was silence. For exactly 7 seconds, every system on Relay 9 stopped transmitting. No alarms sounded. No emergency lights flashed. It was as if the station itself held its breath. Then everything returned to normal. The logs showed no error. The clocks insisted nothing had happened. Elias frowned at his screen. He replayed the data again and again. The gap was still there. Probably a sensor glitch, he muttered, saving the file anyway. He had learned to trust patterns more than explanations. That night, he dreamed of standing in an open field under a sky full of unfamiliar stars. The air felt heavy, like it was waiting. Somewhere far away, something vast turned its attention toward him. When he woke up, his heart was racing. Across known space, similar moments were happening. Ancient civilizations lit ceremonial fires. Machine species adjusted probability engines older than stars. Empires that ruled through prophecy declared the beginning of the season. The season was not a time of weather or harvest. It was a cycle that bent chance itself. During the season, outcomes became clearer. Paths narrowed. Destiny sharpened. Every species believed the season chose champions. Humans did not believe in destiny. But that did not stop destiny from noticing them. 3 days later, Elias was in the central control chamber when the air changed. He felt it before he saw anything. The temperature dropped slightly. The lights dimmed, not flickering but bowing. A shape appeared in the middle of the room, tall and thin, like it had been stretched by gravity. Its surface shifted between solid and transparent, as if it existed in several moments at once. Elias froze. The station alarms remained silent. The being inclined its head. Elias Cade, it said. Its voice did not travel through air. It appeared directly inside his mind, calm and precise. The season has begun. Elias swallowed. You're not on any authorized contact list. The being seemed amused. Authorization is irrelevant during the season. Then you're in the wrong place, Elias said, forcing his hands to stay steady. This station isn't important. The being stepped closer. Each movement felt inevitable, like it had already happened. Importance is decided by outcome, not reputation. Destiny selected you the moment my season began. Elias laughed, short and sharp. You've got the wrong human. There is no error, the being replied. I am the herald. I speak when probability collapses into choice. Elias looked around. No one else was in the room. He had never liked being alone, but now the silence felt dangerous. Why me? The herald studied him. Because you survive uncertainty. Because you adapt without believing you are special. Because when the season looked at humanity, it did not see kings or warriors. It saw you. Before Elias could answer, the herald vanished. The lights returned to normal. The air warmed. The alarms began screaming. Within minutes, security teams flooded the chamber. Elias tried to explain, but the words sounded weak even to his own ears. No traces of the being were found. No energy spikes. No records. He was placed under observation. Across the station, small things began to change. A coolant valve failed before it could explode. A micrometeor punctured a cargo bay door but missed the crew by centimeters. A power surge rerouted itself through an unused conduit Elias had repaired months earlier. None of these events were impossible. Together, they formed a pattern. Elias noticed it first. He always did. When a maintenance drone slipped from its rail and nearly crushed him, it stopped midair, jammed between two beams that should not have supported its weight. Elias stared at it, breathing hard. "That shouldn't have worked," he whispered. Later, he realized something worse. He had known exactly where to stand. News spread quickly once the Conquered noticed the data. The Conquered was not a place, but an agreement between species that believed the universe should be managed carefully. Humanity was a junior member. Watch closely. Probability analysts ran simulations thousands of years old. Every model pointed to the same conclusion. The season had focused on a human. Emergency sessions were called. Some argued for containment, others for observation. A few whispered a word they had not used in centuries: threat. Elias did not know any of this when the first attempt on his life occurred. The station shuttle malfunctioned during routine transit, its guidance system feeding impossible vectors. Elias braced for impact. The shuttle passed cleanly through a debris field that should have torn it apart. Later analysis showed that every fragment had shifted course by a fraction of a degree. Chance bent. Elias sat in the empty shuttle bay afterward, hands shaking. "I didn't do anything," he said aloud. The season did not answer. Humanity responded in the only way it knew how, by asking questions. Scientists from Earth and Mars arrived quietly. They did not speak of destiny. They spoke of variables, feedback loops, and emergent behavior. Elias became a data point, then a collaborator. He told them everything. One of them, Dr. Han, watched Elias carefully. "You don't believe you're chosen," she said. "No," Elias replied. "I think something made a bad assumption." She smiled slightly. "So do we." As alien observers drew closer, humanity learned the truth about the season. It did not decide outcomes. It pressured systems until they revealed their nature. Most species responded by obeying predictions. Humans responded by improvising. Elias began training not to fight but to decide faster, to act before doubt could slow him. The more he resisted the idea of destiny, the more reality seemed to bend around his refusal. The herald appeared once more, watching from a distance this time. "You struggle against the current," it said. Elias met its gaze. "I'm just swimming." For the first time in recorded history, the herald hesitated. Far across the stars, the Conquered issued a quiet order. The human called Elias Cade was no longer to be observed. He was to be contained, and the season, watching closely, adjusted its attention. It had never faced a species like this before. Elias Cade learned he was being hunted the moment the station stopped feeling safe. Relay 9 had always been quiet, but now the silence felt sharp, like it was watching him. Security patrols doubled, then tripled. Doors took longer to open. Messages arrived late or not at all. The official reason was routine Conquered oversight, but no one said routine with a straight face anymore. Elias noticed the pattern before anyone warned him. He always did. Every time he moved through the station, something adjusted. A corridor light brightened just enough to show a loose floor panel before he stepped on it. A service lift paused for half a second, allowing a heavy crate to slide past where his head would have been. None of it felt magical. It felt like the universe correcting itself around his choices. That frightened him more than any alien ever could. Dr. Han insisted he stay near the science wing. "If the Conquered wants to contain you," she said quietly, "this is the best place to see it coming." Elias did not like the word contain. "Like a virus," he said. "Like a variable," she replied. The first containment team arrived disguised as diplomats. They were not human. Elias recognized their species from old briefings, beings who believed the future was already written and their role was to enforce it. Their ships moved with perfect precision. Their faces showed no emotion. They requested a meeting. Elias sat behind a transparent barrier while they spoke. "You are destabilizing the season," their leader said. "Your continued freedom introduces unacceptable uncertainty." "I didn't ask for any of this," Elias said. "Destiny does not require consent," the being replied. Elias leaned forward. "Then it doesn't understand humans." The meeting ended without agreement. 2 hours later, the station lost power to the science wing. Darkness fell. Emergency lights flickered on. Elias felt it then, a pressure, like invisible hands trying to guide him down a specific path. His heart raced. Every instinct screamed at him to run in one direction. He went the other way. The corridor behind him collapsed as an energy blast tore through the bulkhead. Elias sprinted, not thinking, only choosing. Left instead of right, up instead of down. Every choice felt wrong and right at the same time. He reached a maintenance hatch that should have been sealed. It opened. Inside, the air was thick with dust and old wiring. Elias slid inside and sealed the hatch just as footsteps echoed past. For the first time, he understood. The season was not protecting him. It was testing him. Across the station, Dr. Han watched the feeds in disbelief. Probability graphs spiked and twisted like living things. "He's not following projected survival paths," she whispered. "He's creating new ones." Humanity reacted fast. They always had. While alien species waited for prophecies to confirm their actions, humans planned, failed, adjusted, and tried again. A small fleet arrived at Relay 9, human-made and unremarkable. No grand symbols, no declarations, just ships ready to move. The conquered protested. Humanity ignored them. Elias was moved off-station under cover of chaos. As alien containment units fought human security, the universe seemed to hesitate. Shots missed. Systems failed at the wrong moments. Time itself felt uneven. Elias sat strapped into a transport seat, breathing hard. "This is getting worse," he said. Dr. Han nodded. "The more you resist the season, the more it pushes back." "What happens if it wins?" She did not answer. The herald appeared again, this time aboard the transport. No alarms sounded. No one else reacted. Only Elias saw her. She looked different now, less certain. "You are damaging the structure of choice," she said. Elias laughed weakly. "Good. You do not understand the risk," the herald said. "The season exists to prevent chaos." Elias met her gaze. "No, it exists to make things comfortable for species that are afraid of uncertainty." Her form flickered. "Humanity is dangerous." "Yes," Elias agreed. "We know." The transport shook as it jumped to faster than light. The herald vanished, leaving behind a feeling Elias could not name. Fear, maybe, not his. Human scientists worked quickly. They exposed Elias to simulations, impossible scenarios, sudden changes. Instead of training him to accept outcomes, they trained him to decide under pressure. The results terrified the observers. When faced with a no-win situation, Elias did not freeze. He reframed the problem. He looked for options no one else considered. The season responded by narrowing probabilities harder, trying to force him into predicted outcomes. Elias responded by being stubborn. Alien champions began to fall, not in battles of strength, but in moments of choice. Their predictions failed. Their futures unraveled when humans acted without waiting for signs. Entire operations collapsed because humanity refused to behave as expected. The conquered fractured. Some species demanded Elias' destruction. Others wanted to study humanity more closely. A few began to question the season itself. Elias felt the pressure constantly now. Sleep became difficult. Dreams were filled with branching paths, all glowing, all demanding he choose. One night he woke to find Dr. Han sitting nearby. "You can stop," she said gently. "We can hide you, withdraw." Elias shook his head. "It won't stop looking," she sighed. "Then what do you want?" Elias thought for a long moment. "I wanted to understand that choice isn't a flaw." The next encounter came at the edge of known space. An alien fleet waited, champions of destiny, their movements synchronized like a single mind. The season bent hard around them, probability tight and sharp. Human ships advanced without formation. The battle was brief and strange. Human vessels made moves that made no sense, sacrificing advantage for unpredictability. Alien weapons fired where humans should have been. Elias watched from the command deck. His hands were steady. "Now," he said. A human ship jumped inside the enemy formation, not to attack but to transmit. A simple message broadcast across all channels. "We choose." The season reacted violently. Probability spiked, then fractured. Alien ships lost coordination. Futures they depended on vanished. The battle ended not with destruction but with retreat. For the first time since the season was first recorded, it failed to produce a clear outcome. The herald appeared one final time, her voice quieter than before. "You are changing us," she said. Elias looked tired but calm. "No," he replied. "We're changing ourselves, you're just noticing." Across the galaxy, the season slowed. Destiny, pressed too hard, began to bend. And humanity, watching closely, prepared for what came next. The galaxy felt different when the season began to slow. No alarms announced it. No ancient machines rang their warning tones. It was felt instead as a loss of pressure, like a storm pulling away from the shore. Probability stopped pressing so hard on events. Futures stopped snapping into narrow lines. Elias Cade noticed it while staring out at a field of distant stars. For the first time in months, the feeling of being watched eased. The constant sense that every step mattered, that every breath was part of some test, grew quieter. It did not vanish, but it loosened. "That's new," he said softly. Dr. Hand stood nearby, arms crossed, eyes tired. "The models agree," she replied. "The season isn't behaving like it should, it's hesitating." Elias frowned. "Like it doesn't know what to do." "Exactly like that." Across the galaxy, species that built their civilizations on prediction were panicking. Their prophecy engines returned conflicting results. Oracles disagreed with themselves. Long-trusted paths dissolved into uncertainty. For humans, it was uncomfortable. For everyone else, it was terrifying. The conquered called an emergency convergence, something that had not happened in centuries. Delegates gathered in a neutral void space, their ships forming careful patterns that once carried deep meaning. Now the patterns felt empty. Elias was invited, not as a champion, not as a ruler, as a problem. He stood in the center of the chamber, unarmed, wearing simple clothes. Around him, beings of light, metal, flesh, and things that had never needed bodies watched in silence. The herald appeared last. She no longer filled the space with certainty. Her form flickered, edges less defined. The voice that entered Elias' mind was quieter than before. "The season is reaching its final convergence," she said. "A resolution is required." A tall delegate spoke, its voice echoing with anger. "Then end this. Remove the human, restore order." Others murmured agreement. Elias listened, hands at his sides. He did not feel brave. He felt tired. Dr. Hand's words echoed in his memory. "You can stop. Withdraw." The herald turned toward him. "You were chosen to embody an outcome, to anchor destiny. Accept your role and the season will stabilize." Elias looked around at the gathered powers. "And if I do," the herald hesitated, "then the season may fail." Silence followed. A machine mind spoke next. "Failure would introduce permanent uncertainty." "Yes," Elias said, "that's kind of the point." Anger rippled through the chamber. Fear, too. Species that had survived by knowing the future could not imagine living without it. Elias took a slow breath. "You keep calling it destiny," he said, "but it's just pressure. You squeeze reality until it behaves the way you want." "It prevents chaos," the herald insisted. "No," Elias replied, "it prevents change." The season reacted, not with violence but with weight. The chamber darkened as probability collapsed inward. Futures narrowed, choices vanished. Elias felt the familiar pressure return, stronger than ever. Paths appeared before his mind, glowing, demanding he step into one. Become the anchor, become the chosen, become predictable. Human ships outside the chamber felt it too, systems strained. Pilots fought the urge to freeze, to wait for instructions that never came. Dr. Han clenched her fists. "He's being forced," she whispered. Inside the chamber, Elias closed his eyes. He thought of Relay 9. Of broken machines fixed with no plan. Of choosing left instead of right simply because it felt better. Of humanity stumbling forward, never certain, never perfect, but always moving. When he opened his eyes, the glowing paths were still there. He stepped back. "I refuse," he said. The words were simple. They carried no special power, but they landed like a fracture. The season tried to tighten again. Elias did something no model predicted. He stopped choosing at all. He stood still, not frozen by fear, but calm. He accepted uncertainty fully. Not as a challenge, not as a fight, as a state of being. Probability had nothing to grab onto. The glow dimmed, paths blurred, futures scattered. The herald cried out, her form distorting. "You cannot do this without an anchor." "Then let it go," Elias said. "Let everyone choose for themselves." The season broke. Not exploded, not destroyed. It unraveled. Across the galaxy, prediction engines went silent. Prophecies lost meaning. Carefully planned futures dissolved into open possibility. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then breath returned to the universe. The chamber lights stabilized. Delegates stared at one another, stunned. Some collapsed, overwhelmed. Others laughed, hysterical and free. The herald fell to one knee. Elias stepped forward, instinctively reaching out. His hand passed through her shifting form. She looked up at him, something new in her eyes, not certainty, not authority, wonder. "The season did not choose you because you were special," she said slowly. "It chose you because you were empty of expectation." Elias shrugged. "I was just being human." The conquered dissolved within weeks, not in violence but in irrelevance. Without the season to enforce outcomes, its authority meant nothing. Species began negotiating honestly for the first time. Some failed, some adapted. Humans helped where they could. They did not replace the conquered. They did not rule. They shared something far more dangerous: uncertainty. Elias disappeared from public life. There were no monuments, no titles. He returned briefly to Relay 9, walked its quiet corridors, fixed a broken console out of habit. The universe no longer bent around him, and he was glad. Years later, new cycles formed. Not seasons, but moments, periods of change driven by choice, not pressure. Species learned slowly. Some never did. Whenever systems reached a point where the future seemed fixed, a saying spread among the stars: "Beware the humans. They do not follow destiny. They dismantle it." Far beyond known space, something ancient stirred, observing the new pattern forming. Not a season, not a prophecy, a variable. For the first time, the universe did not try to control it. It waited. And humanity, unaware and unafraid, kept moving forward, one uncertain step at a time.